Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
Hey, everyone. My name is Mike Peworski. I am your co-host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co-host with the most. Here on the Rundown, where we promise to bring you 2A views of conservative news. Happy Gun Day Monday, and Craig, how was your weekend?
It was actually quite a fun weekend. It was it was an interesting weekend to say the least. If you recall, I told you that we were going to pick up a goat and have it butchered, shall we say?
Did we have a conversation about a goat? I don't seem to remember that.
We don't remember that conversation. Oh, well, it was an interesting conversation. Let's just put it this way: the goat escaped.
What?
It scaled a 6-foot fence. Was like it sensed that its time had come, and it got ghost. It was impressive, I have to say.
Did you see this escape?
I watched this escape. Yes.
Did you do anything, or the whole time did you just go like, "I wonder if that's normal"?
I was more like, "Gee, I wonder if that's normal." It was like it was kind of like you could see he was like, "Yeah, I'm not cool with this."
Yep.
And all of a sudden just said, "Yeah, no, I'm going over the fence." Bye.
So this goat gets out. It's wandering around Compton now all by itself.
It's not Compton. It was actually up in Placerville, which is a pretty rural area.
Right. So you think somebody else is eating this goat by now?
I do not know. I have absolutely no idea. It was a big one though. This sucker was huge.
This was your backyard?
I just wanted to make sure I didn't catch the business end of the horn.
Yeah. This was your backyard?
This was not in my backyard. This was we drove up to Placerville to go get it.
Okay.
This was the reason they were getting rid of this goat was because it had a record. It had a history of escapes and damaging property and yada yada yada. So they were just like, yeah, we gotta it's gotta go.
So this goat's a 3-time loser, what
Yes,
you're saying.
exactly. Yeah. And now it's on the loose again. Probably has illegally entered someone else's property. It's an undocumented goat.
It's an undocumented goat. Yeah, listen, I'm just saying if you didn't have magazine restrictions there, you probably could have taken this goat out. You just start.
Well, if I had known that scaling the fence was a possibility, we probably would have dispatched it right there and then taken it to the butcher. But the butcher, the one that we in particular use, my father-in-law likes to use, he would prefer to dispatch the animal himself.
Gotcha. Now, I wasn't clear on this part. Let's say you go there and you get this goat. How are you going to get the goat to the butcher shop?
Oh, well, no, we had a kennel in the back of a truck and all of that. We just had to get him from the kennel into the back of the kennel in the truck.
Okay. I was going to say, because this doesn't sound like the kind of goat that would just sit next to you in the back seat and chill the whole time.
No, it definitely was not that kind of goat.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. You got you a gang goat is what you got.
This man, like I said, my father-in-law he loves fresh goat, so we've done it a couple of times. This was the biggest one I've seen. And definitely the first time I've seen them escape like this.
Yeah, well,
but anyway,
was there a search party? Or
it was entertaining. I will say that, even though I didn't get my fresh goat curry, it was highly entertaining. I will say that.
So, did you guys go like a search party, or you just write the goat off?
Oh no, we went around. It was going to be gone for a while. It probably was not going to return to their property for, they said, at least probably a day or so. They said when it does return, they'll dispatch it and let us know. We'll come get it.
Gotcha. So did you guys just have like tofu curry for the weekend or what?
No, we actually just had tri-tip.
You what?
Tri-tip. We had tri-tip instead.
Oh, tri-tips. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well,
we had a backup plan.
Any weekend with tri-tips a good weekend.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Exactly. How about yourself? How was your weekend?
Let's see. I went flying mostly and spent a little time with the fam. Other than that, all days blend together. They seem the same to me.
Nice.
My daughter did have her school play and did wonderfully.
Excellent. That is good to hear. That is phenomenal to hear. Young thespian ready to spread her wings and be a
and fly. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yep.
All right.
That's what happened. Yep.
All right, let's get on to today's news. And this first story, Mike, I got to tell you, it's one that's kind of personal to me because this is like literally happened in my backyard. All right, Arcade Church is a church that I visited. The kids who were involved in this go to a school district, which is a neighboring school district. I know all of the members of that school board. They're right next door to us. So there was for those of you who do not know, there was a shooting that took place in Sacramento, California at a church. An individual who had a restraining order against him for his estranged wife or girlfriend, I guess ex-girlfriend, and their 3 kids, was in the midst of a supervised visit when he took out a semi-automatic rifle and wound up shooting 3 kids, his 3 children, the person who was supervising, as well as took his own life. Now, Mike, the thing is, and we talked a little bit about this story. Last week, but Mike, here was the thing that really got me, and the thing that's really kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The thing that really kind of bothered me about this whole friggin' thing is that it turns out that it turns out that this guy, he was in the country illegally, right? In other words, let me take a step back. Not only was he in the country illegally, he had overstayed his visa from 2017, by 2018, he had overstayed his visa. But not too long ago, we're talking about a week before, this individual was actually arrested for assaulting a highway patrolman, and then what got out of jail. And because California is a sanctuary state, right, meaning our government, our law enforcement is not allowed to communicate with ICE, right? So in other words, they knew he was in the country illegally. They knew he had a violent background, and they released the Merced County Sheriff's Office released him instead of calling ICE to come get him. So they released him, right? So if California had not been a sanctuary state, Mike, he would have been in custody instead of killing his 3 kids and a 4th individual.
Craig, no doubt in my mind, no doubt in my mind at all that if California had been following the law, 4 more people would be alive today. It's clear that the failure of California to act on the law, this is not something that somebody else came up with, and California says, well, we're not sure if that's, it's legit or not. This is a federal law. This is the law that, we see people fighting because of political reasons, because of votes, because it's more votes for them and more tax dollars and more U.S. House of Representatives for them that they don't enforce your illegal immigrant laws there. And here you go. Here's another sure sign fact. You can't argue it, that 4 more people would have been alive today if this gentleman had been, if this scumbag had been taken care of properly.
Mike, the thing is, and this just goes back to what we know to be true. When there are no consequences, first of all, people who do bad things are going to continue to do bad things until someone stops them, until there is a sufficient enough motivation for them not to. And if this, or you take steps to stop them. And this is a case where this guy basically had a history of violence. I mean, there was a reason why there was a restraining order against him, because clearly his ex-girlfriend thought he had mental issues. Clearly someone else, even a judge, thought he had issues. I'm like, first of all, why does this guy still have firearms? And what they noted was, they basically assumed that since he said he didn't own any firearms, that he did not own any firearms. Now, no one knows when he purchased this gun, this firearm. We don't know if he owned it before or if he purchased it since. And if he purchased it since, then that means that the quote unquote background check system that they have failed. If he already owned it, then why didn't once again, in California, we have this thing called AFIS, the Automatic Firearms System. So they can look and see if he had purchased any firearms. Why didn't anybody look to see if he had purchased any firearms?
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs here, Craig. Listen, there's actually scenarios where he could have legally purchased the firearm. but that I don't agree with. Listen, you could be a legal resident, a green card holder, and purchase a firearm in this country.
Well, but no, but you're not. If you have a restraining order in the state of California, if you have a restraining order against you, you are added to a list called the armed prohibited persons, or you are prohibited from purchasing a firearm, owning or possessing a firearm if you have a restraining order against you.
You're correct, but if he was a legal resident prior to 2017 when his visa expired, he could have purchased one back then. That's the point. So
right, but my thing is, in California, if he had, we have what's thing called the automated firearm system. So basically, if he had purchased one, they could have looked to see if he had purchased one. That's my point. Sure. They wouldn't know necessarily what he purchased, but they would at least know that he had purchased a firearm.
Right. And it's did they do that? We don't know. And it's a lot of ifs. Craig, maybe they did. Maybe he told them he sold it. There's a lot of there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, and I'm not going to jump into what those answers may be. I'm just saying that there are scenarios where he could have at one point having legally possessed a firearm.
Yeah, and I completely agree. But when they got the restraining order, they could have determined whether or not is there a chance that he owns or has had in the past purchased a firearm. They could have known that, and they didn't.
And again, I don't know whether they checked that or not. So again, I can't. Should they have?
Right.
Yes. That's all I could say.
Right. But my thing with all of that is not, because here's the thing, folks. Bad people are going to do bad things, and by the way, criminals are going to break the law, and they're going to find ways around. They do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
My issue is that these are all things that are put in place. Keep in mind, California has the strictest gun laws in the entire country, right? Yeah. And yet, and still, the only people who are really kept from being able to own or possess firearms are law-abiding citizens, not guys like this.
Yep, exactly right.
I'm livid, exactly and right. my thing is. The Democrat politicians, the anti-gun politicians, Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris in particular, because the policies that are put in place, in particular the sanctuary state policies were put in place. They own them. They own this. This is on them. And the worst part is this isn't even this. It's not the first time. It's not the second time it's happened. It's not even the fifth time that it's happened, Mike. It's happened multiple times where people who are not supposed to be in this country, who could have been removed from this country were it not for our sanctuary state laws, have actually not just harmed, but taken the life of innocent people.
You're right. You're right. And listen, if we had if we get a U.S. prosecutor out there that sees that and goes after them for some sort of a depraved indifference or manslaughter charge, that could only be hopes and dreams that somebody tries to make things right. But you can never bring these people back, but maybe they can stop these people from doing it again.
Well, at a certain point, here's the thing: you got to own the fact that your policies are failing.
Yeah, and
it's time to change. It's time to reverse ship. And I will give some folks on the left some credit in that they're recognizing that the Democrat defund the police policies are not working or were not working, and they're reversing ship on many of those. Now, they won't admit that those were their party's policies, right? But at least they're admitting that those policies aren't working.
Yeah, isn't that amazing too? Where we saw that during the State of the Union, we have to fund the police. We cannot defund. We know that they stole back the conservative policies because their liberal policies were failing, but they never said we made a mistake. They just all of a sudden showed up like, well, this was our plan all along. Yeah, right. This is always what we meant. Yeah.
Well, I do believe that there were Democrats who did not necessarily support the idea of defunding the police. The problem was they didn't say anything to their brethren and sisterin who were screaming it from the rooftops.
Yeah. You are correct, sir.
They were making excuses for them. Well, they just mean maybe we need to fund some other programs. And where exactly do they plan on getting that money? Well, they're going to redirect it from law enforcement. That's called defunding the police.
Money tree out back, yeah.
There you go, the money tree out back. Okay, let's move on to our next story, because obviously, if there is an incident that takes place, if there is a shooting or something like that takes place, the first thing that's going to happen is Well, they're going to blame the gun. That's just kind of how this stuff works. And, we're constantly told that we need to follow the direction of what goes on in Europe because we know Europe knows everything, right? Well, there was a shooting that took place in Europe involving a shotgun. And so now they are discussing the idea of banning personally owned or the possession of firearms in one's home now in the United Kingdom because there was a shooting that took place, once again, with a shotgun. Now, mind you, other long guns are already prohibited. I believe handguns are already prohibited. And now they want to expand it to include shotguns, Mikey. You do know, Mike, and I think you and I can kind of agree on this. They're not going to stop until they ban all firearms. All guns are banned. And so they started off with the semi-automatic centerfire rifles. Then they took all the handguns. And now they're going after the pump-action shotguns.
Everything, Craig. This is not a big mystery. Remember when this started out? It was those, the pistols, the assault, because they were having a problem with the pistols back then, the same way the East Coast did back in the 70s with the Saturday night specials. So they had to get rid of the firearms. And you and I joke about this, right? As soon as you get rid of the handguns, this is how they did it in England. The handguns first. As soon as you get rid of the handguns, then they went on to the long guns. And Craig, at that point, remember, they also got rid of military style weapons, the assault weapons, right? Before there was a thing called assault weapons. Then we know what's next, right? It's military style sniper rifles, right? Where's Grandpa's deer gun? It's a military style sniper rifle. Where's the trench clearing guns? You mean the military style shotguns? You mean Grandpa's hunting shotgun? No. It's a trench gun. It's a door blaster. It's a weapon of war. We knew that this would happen. This is exactly what happens the moment you agree to give up the first firearm or firearm component. The end state for them is that there'll be no guns and we can all just hold hands and sing Kumbaya and nobody will ever shoot each other.
Well, exactly. And they do the same thing with knives, right? All of a sudden now it's illegal to possess a cleaver or a steak knife.
A narwhal spear,
I mean, when we say that this stuff is likely to happen, I'm not just saying it because, I'm an alarmist. I'm saying it because we see it playing out right now in other countries that do not value freedom the way in which we value freedom here in the United States. And one of the most important freedoms that we have is that right to be able to defend oneself. And the people who seek to come after our lives, the people who seek to take our lives, they have possession of these things, right? They're going to have these things. And what you have is you have a government who doesn't want you to be able to appropriately be able to defend yourself against those. They want those who want to take your life and take your stuff to be better armed than you. And the worst part about it is we all know that really what they're protecting themselves from, they're trying to protect the government from a people who may stand up and tell them, no, you cannot take my freedom and my liberty.
Exactly right. And that's what we're here for, right? That's what the Second Amendment is for. Listen, unfortunately, England doesn't have it. We see it going on with our friends up in north in Canada. They don't have it. They're getting more guns confiscated from them. It happened in Australia. I'm just saying, I don't know how we got so fortunate, Craig, that our founding fathers found a way to put that into our Constitution to make sure that our rights endowed to us by our Creator were put down on paper so that others could not argue them away from us 250 years later. So
it doesn't mean they're not trying, though.
Oh, they're trying every turn.
I will tell you the thing that's a trip about it is they're literally doing it by changing the meanings of words. Like, I don't understand how the right to an abortion, which is nowhere written anywhere in the Constitution, anywhere in the Bill of Rights. I mean, we're talking nowhere, is in their eyes sacrosanct. I mean, it's unquestionable, but the right to keep and bear arms, which is explicitly written in very clear words right there in the Constitution, somehow that is suspect. I don't understand. I don't understand how we confuse it, except that they just change the meanings of words.
Well, listen, we know that they don't have to worry about it. They could do what they want, and then they just go to the courts afterwards. We continue to
Right.
see this. Listen, with your sanctuary states, with the marijuana laws, right? Listen, just because it happens to be the law doesn't mean we can't do what we want, and we'll just wait for the court thing to happen later.
Right. Well, and to a certain degree, I think this leads into the kind of the next story when you think about what is legal some places, is not legal some places, and in a lot of instances, the word it's nothing more than the words or the definition of words that change. Mike, you want to tell folks about this Secret Service story and the seizing of the AR-15 and all of it? Anyway, about this situation that took place.
Yeah, listen, this happened late last week, so I'm sure more will develop out of this, or more will be released at some point. And the part that I found interesting was that, according to the story, there were these. It was two gentlemen who, or two people. We don't know if they're gentlemen, right? Two people that showed up in the DC metro area. So they were inside the DC, right, the district itself, and the laws there are very, very strict when it comes to firearms. Now we know that there's been changes for that. You can, right? You can own a firearm. You can apply for a license, and it has to be, but it still has to be a compliant firearm, right? Which is like a 10 round or less, a semi-automatic handgun or a revolver. So again, don't know what these guys' plan was. Don't have any idea what that it was, and we'll find that out later. But the point being that they were charged with, Craig, you bring up that list of charges. I don't know if you've got that article listed or previewed, ready to go. I want to show you this this list of charges. If we scroll down here. There we go. Go up. All right. One man was charges of possessing a prohibited weapon, carrying a dangerous weapon, unlawful transportation of a firearm, unregulated ammunition, unregistered firearm, carrying a firearm without a license. Okay. Greg, right over the border, 5 miles away in Virginia, none of those are crimes. None of those are crimes, right? These gentlemen could have had those lawfully owned firearms. Listen, if it had been a stolen firearm, we'd know it. If it had been a modified firearm, we'd know it. That would have been part of the charges. But they took firearms that were legally owned by, like I could own here in Florida, like people could own in Virginia. Yet they crossed a border, a line on the ground inside the United States, and now all of a sudden they're facing multiple felony charges.
And they were basically they were considered to be suspicious.
Listen, I am not doubting the Secret Service's reason for stopping them.
Right.
I'm not doubting that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what these guys intend for. Listen, they may find a manifesto in their pocket and they were gonna kill Abraham Lincoln for all I know. We have no idea. The point here is that the laws from one set of jurisdiction to another makes you you're okay.
Right.
Nice to see you, sir. To now you got multiple felonies, you're going down the hole.
Well, and that's the reason why you have states that have preemption laws, because there are a lot of places where, if they had their druthers, they would make it illegal for you. Like here in California, in San Francisco, in some cities, possession of hollow point ammunition is considered to be illegal. So I can legally be carrying I can legally be concealed carrying, but if I'm in the city of San Francisco and I'm found to be carrying with hollow points, I'm violating the law.
Yes.
And I could go to jail.
Yes.
Even if I have no idea that hollow points are illegal in that particular city.
Yes.
Now imagine trying to do that imagine trying to then transport your firearm or your carry or anything like that in a country, in a state from city to city where it's like that. Now, the Northeast, I got to imagine how hard it is, because it's a lot easier to go from state to state in the Northeast, where you can, within a couple of hours, you can pass through multiple states with multiple different gun laws, and multiple different things are legal or illegal. And we've seen individuals who've had to deal with that, who've been pulled over and have actually been arrested for doing something that was legal in the state where they were from and legal in the state that they were going to, but not legal in the state that they were passing through.
Oh yeah, listen, just run the route on 95 over there. Listen, if you run the route on 95, the East Coast interstate, the same way, the length you would in California, you pass through 7 states. I think
Right.
is what it is. So yeah, and every one of them with a firearm law, worse than the rest. It's just
Mhm.
it's amazing.
I would venture to say this. So imagine, and for those of you who are not who don't really get that concept, think about it this way. What if certain cars were not legal in certain jurisdictions because of the I don't know, the miles per gallon or something like that, right? Or the color, whatever it is, right?
Emissions controls, huh? Like in California.
Right, emissions controls, exactly. So imagine it has to pass, like for example, California smog, which is crazy strict, right? It has to pass that emission standard, and you're driving from one state to another, and you get pulled over, and you don't even know that your car doesn't pass emissions in that state. Now all of a sudden you are arrested, your car is confiscated, and you are now a potential felon because you broke emissions laws. That's what it's kind of like with firearms. It's you're following the law, like I said, in the state where you're from and in the state where you're going to, but you don't know
Yeah.
the laws in all of the states that you're passing through.
Yep. Exactly. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Full faith and credit should be in effect. It is for marriage licenses, it is for driver's licenses, but yet because of firearms ownership from being illegal from one state to another, or a firearms owner's permit, a concealed weapons license, no full faith and credit whatsoever. This needs to be rectified
Yep.
As soon as possible, and which means at a minimum at least 3 years away, right?
Exactly. Because we're not going to have a president who's going to sign anything like that.
No, the only thing that we could hope for that happens ahead of time before that is a Supreme Court decision.
Yes. Now that is a distinct possibility. Luckily, we've got a court with a makeup that seems like that is more possible.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, we have a chief justice who is a bit of a statist. And is not necessarily one who advocates for who believes in the liberty that is outlined in the Declaration of Independence or in our Constitution,
yes,
or the rule of law. He's more interested in the rule of the state, and that's unfortunate. But that is who he is.
Yep, exactly right.
All right. Okay. Well, talk about being is as it is. Now, I will be the first person to tell you that I believe that elected officials can do multiple things at one time, meaning that just because we're dealing with what's going on over there in Russia doesn't mean, or in Ukraine, doesn't mean that everything else needs to shut down. But at the same time, we also have a vice president who is spending a significant amount of time more focused on equity than on actually what is going on, in Russia. And so you have Kamala Harris, who's pushing the Equality Act amid the Russian invasion, and says that this is what they care about. So in other words, Democrats are pushing this bill, which they believe basically will limit the ability of certain states to pass laws dealing with LGBTQ issues. They want to take that out of the hands of states and states' ability to be able to make some of these decisions. And they're saying that, that's what they're being criticized. She's being criticized because she's more focused on that than she is on what's going on there. And here's kind of the quote where the tweet that she sent out. She said, "Let's send the Equality Act to President Biden's desk. We must increase protections for LGBTQ plus Americans across the country. The onslaught of state bills targeting transgender Americans and their families is wrong." Now, first of all, Mike, I'm curious what these onslaught of bills that she's talking about are.
Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. That's the problem, right? It's by the way, Craig, a bill is something that's put forth by the Congress, and then the Congress signs the bill and sends it to the Senate, and then the Senate sends it to the president, and that's how a bill becomes law. I just figured I'd explain bills to you the same way Kamala Harris would explain them to us.
I thought bills were those things that came in the mail, and if you don't pay them, stuff gets turned off.
That's true. That does happen. As well. Listen, she's in La La Land. I don't know where she is. Everything else is going on around the world, and maybe it's her plan. Maybe it's her plan to sneak the equal rights amendment below the radar during the Ukraine nonsense. Maybe nobody will notice it.
Right.
As opposed to her just being out there in La La Land. She woke up and probably looked at her calendar and said, "Oh, Thursday, don't forget to promote ERA." Okay, well, promote ERA. There we go. So she's got no idea what's going on around her. She's this is the pretty much way I understand she took care of things in California as well, Craig.
Well, it is because obviously the idea of focusing on what's important. Oh, I don't know, like inflation. How about our southern border? What Miss Borders are? How about you do something? You're supposed to be doing something to fix things at our southern border, yet we just had 2 million people that we know of enter our country illegally. We're talking undocumented, unvaccinated, untested. Now they're somewhere here in the United States, and we have no idea where. But, you want to focus on this other issue that is quite frankly, a non-issue. I'm sorry, I have no idea what it is that you're talking about, Madam Vice President. You need to probably just shut up.
I saw an analogy this weekend. Somebody talked about her at the State of the Union. At the State of the Union, a lot of people, I don't say everybody, a lot of people wore the blue and yellow of the Ukrainian flag, to show their support. The vice president, however, being a brown woman, chose to wear a brown suit sitting on a brown chair so she could blend into the background, pretty much like her time in office as vice president. Yeah.
But Mike, she hasn't blended in. Here's how you know. Because the vice president should never have a lower approval rating than the president. Yet, her approval rating is even worse than Joe Biden's. And Joe Biden's is pretty pathetic. I mean, it's probably
it just goes to show,
as it could possibly get.
Yeah, it just goes to show there's no challenge she can't rise to. She's found a new way to break records. Right. The vice president's rating should never be below the president. Right. She's found a way. She's a trailblazer.
She is a trailblazer. She's figured it out. Well, who else has figured out? Who else is trying to figure something out? And that is Dr. Fauci is trying to figure out the next phase of his life. The post, now that we've entered the endemic phase of COVID, Mr. Pandemic Fauci, Mr. Fakey. Well, he is looking for and trying to figure out exactly how to spend the rest of his time. And as we can see, he doesn't seem to be too happy about
when your phase of the end of the world is over. I heard, and listen, he's got a little plan that some of them Russian missiles might have the COVID in them. So he's hoping they shoot the COVID into the Ukrainians and they can start all over again.
Well, now, Mike, have you seen the stories that keep coming out? And there's a new variant. It's going to be scary. And it's like, yeah right.
Here it comes. Its name is Chucky. It's weird stuff. They're like, no, it's done. It's done.
No,
it's done.
It's not. It's okay.
Yeah.
Not that scary. Lookity boogity. Lookity boogity.
I'm the COVID. Yeah. No. All right. It's all good. Bye, Dr. Fauci. Bye.
Goodbye, Dr. Fakey. Please. And when it's all said and done, I cannot wait till Republicans take over Congress and we can have some investigations into him, into the origins of COVID, and quite frankly, into his investments into the companies that dealt with those things. I'm not saying he's guilty of anything. I'm saying it should be investigated.
I think we'll let Rand Paul lead those investigations.
I would love that. That would be phenomenal. I would watch that on pay-per-view.
Listen, it wouldn't be long. I mean, there'd be the gallows behind Rand Paul, right? And then they'd bring in Fauci and they'd say, "What say ye?" And as soon as he goes, "Well, and that's it. He's up in the stocks.
Off to the stocks. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's about time to wrap up. But first, Mike, we have to say some shout outs to our sponsors.
We have to say hello to our good friends at Gorilla Machining, Grid Defense, and of course, our fine friends at the California Republican Assembly.
All right, folks. Hey, the California Republican Assembly has a big convention coming up. It's going to be taking place the weekend of March 18th. Got some good folks who are going to be there. Dr. John Eastman is going to be there. Also, we're going to have Larry Elder is going to be one of the speakers there. So you folks are going to want to attend. If you can be there, it's there in Southern California at Knott's Berry Farm Hotel there. Check it out. The early bird pricing, I believe, may be over, but who knows? Maybe you can still sneak in. Anyway, give it a try. Check it out. You guys want to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. In any case, that's going to be it for today. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing and telling your friends. Folks, if you want to watch us, there's tons of different places to watch us on Facebook, on YouTube. You can also watch us on OpsLens. And if you want to just listen to the program, well, guess what? You can get us wherever you get your podcast. So please make sure you guys do that. Check us out. Encourage your friends to join us. And with that, we will bid you a fond adieu and look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Pass us around. We'll see you then.